presentation, we have Andrew Hurley. Andrew is a professor from CLEMSON, and he'll come up and tell you about himself. He's got a whole list, as well as he works with Quad, who is one of our sponsors, and he can speak to that as well. So thank you, Andrew.
Hey, thank you. Well, happy post-cookie. Well, it's an honor to be in front of all of you today, and we hope to talk a lot about sustainability and also Legally Blonde, one of my favorite movies. If you haven't seen Legally Blonde, it has really a fantastic script. And it also portrays the professor, how I kind of see professors working. There's a good one and there's a bad one, but they interact with industry, and that is a very important role for a professor at a university. So just so you know what a professor actually does, if you take out everything and put it into days, I spend a whole day teaching, have 3 classes, graduate, undergraduate. I've got a whole research team of around a dozen students that are doing LCA modeling. They are growing plants and looking at uptake and packaging materials, and working on grants with like the USDA and looking at climate smart activities. And then I spend a whole day just doing the minutia of the university, the paperwork and processes and things like that. But Thursday's a really fun day because I'm entitled to consult 1 day a week, and I get to do that with a great company called Quad, where they put ink on substrates. So, and I teach packaging at CLEMSON, and so being able to take theory that I'm teaching on in the classroom and then bridge it back into industry and how things actually work is really awesome for me. Actually, I think I get more out of the deal than Quad does. So I'm excited about that. And then, the secret of all things is, on Fridays, and the entire day is emails. It's like 20% of my entire, of all the things I'm doing is dealing with emails. But anyway, I'm sure you have that. But the best part about my job is working with students. And my job with students in all of my classes is entrepreneurial. You're going to launch a product to the market. And we've got commercial kitchens and all this fun stuff. And here, we've got students that, they wanted to do kombucha. We learned how to make kombucha. They created really wonderful packaging, and in sensory studies beat out the market leader in our area. And so I go around the country, even the world, and my goal is to evangelize the concept that packaging is awesome. I hope you could take that away today. No matter what it is awesome, because these are the products that you're probably used to seeing in a store, and these products, they can't change. If Coke comes out with new Coke, there's like mass hysteria. No good. So the products themselves are really, in all ways, the commodity. The packaging is the difference. It's the only thing that a brand can do in order to show your difference and be more competitive. I learn a lot from a lot of folks out there in industry. Dr. Okorafor, who is the Director of Sustainability for McCormick, uses this example, and it works out so well. It's if you're shopping for spices, and probably in most stores you probably could see all of these in your periphery. And if you really need some basil, you can get that. It was about 70 cents pre-inflation per ounce, and you can get it out of this particular package. And there's some limited function there. You got to find a paper clip and scissors and things like that in order to make this function. But if you do want that function, if you want the function, you're going to spend 5 times more on that particular package, and with this exact same product. And if you really desire the whole experience itself, you can get that as well. It's 7 times its cost. And to me, that's powerful, because if I were to dump all this stuff right in front of you and say which one went to which package, you would all fail that quiz. So in the world of packaging, we ask a lot of questions, and so likely it's like, we work in packaging, you must be the person responsible for the scissors that need scissors to be open, because obviously I have a whole bunch of scissors if I'm buying more scissors, and I can't open them. And so that's an easy way to articulate that response. Or like these diapers here, this is just strange, and why does it look like that? I can articulate this, but it's unarticulated consumer needs is where I spend my day in the world of consumer research. So I got to start my career at Kraft Foods, now Mondelez, on a project where we watched people, back in the day when you got your Oreo cookies in the slug, and people would just with a smile take all those cookies out of that package and dump it into another package that they could reseal. And they didn't know any different. They weren't mad about it. It wasn't like scissors. There was no other obvious difference there. But solving these unarticulated consumer needs is truly where I think innovation lays. Just like ketchup that can dip and squeeze out. Or Chobani, being able to take their product, remove the bowl and the spoon, and directly add and turning it into a condiment Packaging is the difference. Packaging is awesome. And my philosophy is that I'm speaking to a bunch of folks in brands or in the network of brands, and your job is to bring wisdom and difference to the marketplace. But most brands are not packaging experts. And so you rely on your packaging supplier in order to bring you innovation, because they're the experts in the packaging. But a packaging supplier, as you look at who's the best partner for you, it should be someone that is tethered in with data. Not just, oh, I bought this latest data set, or I subscribed to this stuff. There is no way to buy your data. You have to go get it yourself. Your products are unique. Your consumers are unique. The way they interact with your products in the competitive array are unique. And so being able to start at a primary research level is essential to bring an innovation to the brand level. And so one thing that we're able to do at where I get to spend a day a week with as Quad is building out these environments with the products that we're testing, from all types of retail grocery into apparel. There's nothing that we can't dive deep into. My preferred tool of looking at consumer research is not a survey, and we've talked about what people say is not necessarily what they do, but unseen is unsold. And you really, in some way, the idea of free will is questioned with eye tracking, just looking at and watching how people make decisions, and that whole buildup is pretty amazing. My favorite case study ever with eye tracking, if you don't believe it's valuable or not, is with George Brett. This is a Nielsen study of 255 people looked at this particular picture and became pretty interesting in how they segmented where people looked and who the people were. This is how women viewed George Brett, a lot of focus right on that face, and then you kind of see where that heat and intensity is of attention. But what became really interesting was they broke this data set up for men, and this is where men looked. Now, I didn't Photoshop this in any way. This is the real data. But what I think is that, first of all, you don't really have much control over what you look at. And in addition to that, getting this information out of a survey, a focus group, may not be possible because it's an unarticulated situation. Eye tracking is really interesting in order to really understand your brand and the competitive layout at a true empathy of how someone is actually going about and making that decision, and then looking at it at a SKU level. And it's a scalable platform. I mean, as long as you have shoppers in there, it doesn't matter if you have one SKU or 15,000 SKUs. All of this data can be aggregated and then looking at and analyzing at an individual SKU level. My favorite example of the power of eye tracking is with eggnog. No one wanted to pay for eggnog, so we did this seasonal thing. And it's interesting because there's not a lot of brand bias in eggnog. It is a fairly seasonal item. So anyone can buy a pair of eye tracking glasses and collect it, but it's how you use the tool. And it's not just about total attention, it's about where are you investing that attention. So in the world of eggnog, you only have about a second of attention at your primary display panel level. And then there's a lot of elements on eggnog packaging, from ultra-pasteurization claims, which no one cares about, and calorie count, no one's looking at that. But what you'll notice is that there's a big thing that's red in there, and that is an image. And this is where everyone spends their time on eggnog. And that image is, tactically, you have to understand this, is a picture of eggnog on your eggnog. If you do not have a clear glass of eggnog on your eggnog, no one looks at it, no one buys it, it's done. And there's some big brands in here who don't have that, and they're not sold. And I have the sales data, and no one's even looking at them, because unseen is unsold. Today we talked about, there was some data that was given earlier today, and the number one thing that was given from this particular, I think it's probably this group of folks, was how do we improve consumer education? Well, this is perfect, because I think that there's ways to improve consumer education through how you discuss and communicate sustainability directly on your package. And so we did a study at Quad not too long ago where we looked at sustainability claims on pack. And what I want you to take away from this study is that it was across the board, across categories, from frozen, dry, snack, health, and beverage. And we plopped these logos right onto the pack. And what we found out is that only 8% of the shoppers who are in that category actually looked at them. Then we intercepted them in retail, and we said, hey, here is a flyer about the sustainability claim. You can read all about it right here. And before they went into the category, and we noticed that increased by 44% views on that element on pack. Impressive. But that is ridiculous to say that we're going to intercept every customer and show them a flyer. But what we did do is we put it on a coupon, and we gave a reasonable promotion, a realistic promotion with a very small claim that discussed that. And we saw a 20% view on that. So there is ways to educate and some low barrier processes that you might want to consider as well. I mean, sustainability, communication, and labeling, there's a whole lot of things. We've seen many slides today. The whole slide was full of logos, and they are powerful. Here is a category that you're probably used to in the cracker space. And so I looked at all the primary major players in crackers. We eye tracked them with an audience of consumers in this area, and then we tracked every element on here. So this is all the claims that are on this particular category. And we found out that if you have a sustainability claim on here, it became a predominant claim. For some of these brands, it was the only claim that people focused on, and even trumping the product claims like whole wheat for this particular product. But even in the major dominant player in this segment, the sustainability logo was equal weight with all of their other product claims. It's powerful. Then we decided to change it all up and change the grade. So we have really sustainable at A, and then B and C, where you probably don't want to go, like a restaurant that would be rated like that. And we found out that it changed with sales. So the higher the rating that was and how it was displayed, sales increased. And also, and then, of course, the lower ones saw less sales. So there's a QR coding. I'll use this QR code a few times in the presentation, but if you scan it, you can get all these case studies and check them out, and also my email is on it if you have any questions. And I want to help in any way that I possibly can. So I'll show this again. We'll show it at the very end. But what we're talking about is fully scalable concepts from a single SKU over 10,000 SKUs. A lot of the things we'll be talking about today are applicable and deployable. When looking at how to communicate, packaging can completely change, or you have control over dictating how you want your audience and consumer to interact and review your products. This is a predominant brand, and they have a variety of elements on their packaging. And so their question was, should I spot varnish it? Should I flood it with a matte finish? What should I do? Should I use both or not? And the answer was, it differs for this particular product. And your product will be different than this one. This is not a universal standard. It's how it worked here. We found out when we did a full gloss flood, we had the longest on the visual. And then when we did a matte coating, we actually changed what people looked at first from brand down to the product. And then if we spot gloss certain items, it changed the way that where people started their attention on the product and moved. So you can change the way people read things through packaging. It's pretty awesome. Just putting a claim on your package that you're using 100% recycled paper had a change in how people thought about the recyclability of the product, the sustainability of the product itself, and a lot of other data and information around it. But what we found out in general is that the difference was perceived as less between recycled paper and virgin paper substrate. And again, same QR code, but we have a whole case study if you're interested in CRB versus SBS board, and have a case study on that. Another way that I consider sustainability doesn't necessarily have to be about materiality. It's about end use, developing a level of consumer empathy. I think that a lot of the folks that I work with have never watched their products being sold. They haven't spent a day in the store watching people buy their materials. And so we get to have that first experience with a lot of VPs in our lab. But there's a lot of other things that you can do, low barrier things to assess your products in very different ways by embracing a level of consumer empathy. Like colorblind. It's amazing what disappears if you're colorblind, and 1 in 12 men are colorblind. And vision impairment, being able to impair yourself and look at your packaging from someone who doesn't have their glasses. It's amazing the difference. This is a product that we found in Walmart. It's an interesting product, and I had my students go out into the store and find things that could be potential accessibility issues. They put on the colorblind glasses, and this is what it looks like to someone. Totally lost as to what this product is, what it does, its features, everything kind of just blends away. And so I had these great students go out into the store and find and discover all these products and redesign them. So just with tiny little tweaks to the packaging itself, we're able to take this product and make it visible again to someone who has this accessibility issue. Arthritis and dexterity, this is major. Like 23% of adults, I have this, 57% of them are working. They have pain. If you don't have arthritis, you can get gloves and give yourself arthritis and interact with your products to see what it's really like. And this is important because there's a ton of data out there that shows that people make, like over 50% of folks that have issues here make brand switches. Just because the packaging is difficult for them, they can't get into it, and they're going to move on to a competitive product. So developing that level of empathy is important. You don't need to recruit a bunch of folks with arthritis. You can give yourself that and experience your product from a different perspective. We had students look at things that were difficult to open and then finding interesting solutions. I mean, anything is possible, not everything is manufacturable, but it was fun to look at a difference between 4 minutes to get into something and then moving that into less than 30 seconds. Another tool that I think is very practical to use is emotion. There's 41 muscles in your face, and depending on how you're activating things, we record that 30 times per second and tell if you're happy, sad, confused, excited, or disgusted as you interact with your products. And one of my favorite case studies is here. So if you haven't seen this product, it's a Tide has an e-commerce box that comes out. It's like a wine in a box, but not wine, it's detergent. And eye tracking's on top, and then all the emotions are on the bottom. My favorite emotion is contempt. So if you have a partner, you know about contempt. And so we go through, you can watch this person interact with this. You can see what they're looking at and how they're interacting with it. You see a lot of engagement in the very beginning, and then we're moving on, and then there's a little bit of disgust, like this is not turning right. And as they go on, they're trying to figure out and read this. You're really getting a level of empathy for how this product's interacted for a person who's never dealt with it before. But we're coming up on high contempt. She's working on it, setting this whole thing up and ready to go. And you see where that spike is, and then she's got it, and then doesn't work. Doesn't coming out. And so that contempt spikes. But you can have a very detailed level of understanding of how your products influence the behavior of your consumers. There's a lot of people out here with sustainability goals, and a lot of people in here share sustainability goals. And what I really like about sustainability goals is that there's only 17 of them, and you just pick one of these, and you can adapt it for your particular goal. And then I always ask people, you've got all these goals, well, how do you measure your goals? And so some things are easy, like, I want to reduce weight, so I could just measure it and take a percentage of it. But there's other things that become really complex in terms of using different materials, or if I can't directly use it, I'm now using composites, am I adding more or subtracting less? And so Oatly has always inspired me. They're very bold, and they put their carbon footprint. I hope they have all their suppliers locked in for a really long time to keep that. And I sometimes think that in the world of measurement of sustainability, this is the James Webb Telescope. It's probably the most expensive measuring tool we've ever made in humankind. And I don't know if you've seen this picture. It's amazing. It's the picture of the James Webb Telescope out there. It's the whole universe, right, and all these galaxies. And then some smart person in the room was like, well, what's there? And that's like the deepest, darkest, blackest spot in the entire universe. They're like, all right, well, I don't know how much it costs to move the measuring device to look in there, but all they found was just more and more and more galaxies. And I kind of think that is sometimes how I feel deeply around LCAs. And I do a lot of LCAs, a lot. And sometimes I'm going down and we're making comparisons between materials, and the common denominator is like 0.000000017. And I'm wondering, is the measurement device that precise? Am I actually looking at differences in reality here? And so after just doing this over and over again, in order just to remain sane and making decisions, I've had to come up with my own definition for sustainability. And I wanted to share that with you today because I think things just need to be super simple. They're not always easy, but you can make them simple. And the goal would be, for me, 100% PCR, whatever material it is that you use, 100%. And that's not possible for a lot, right? It's really difficult. But if you could do that, all the things that we want to do add up to make sure that it has to be circular. If you have a high level of PCR, any PCR, about 100% PCR. This is an Apple bag. I don't know if you've seen, if you go to an Apple retail store, they have 80% PCR material, and obviously it's 100% recyclable and reusable being a bag. That's pretty great. I mean, it's not good or bad, right or wrong. I know what it is. And so understanding that is step one. So if you can't get 100% PCR, we should always be striving like more and more PCR. Rule number 2 for me would be just 100% recyclable. And we've discussed tools today that allow you to do such a thing, but readily accessible feedstocks, and it's practically recyclable. And there's a lot of things out there. So, there's a lot of examples. I even appreciate this mac and cheese package here. It's 100% recyclable carton, of course, but it's even showing me in the PCR here. And I appreciate that because I want to know if it's recyclable and I want to know the PCR. Those are my top 2 rules for my goal, my definition of sustainability. But my third one is that you might not be able to get any PCR. You may not be able to use any recyclable material. So you better be extending the life of the product. Got to go on Fox News, local, and I got to hold a cucumber in front of everybody, and it's truth, you know, the cucumber package. It's all virgin material. There's no recycled material in it, and it's multi-layered. There's no PCR. It's not recyclable, but it extends the life of this product significantly. And I would always trade the weight of that package for more food. It seems like a great trade to me. So those are my thoughts. We offer a course. It's a nine-week program where we teach people how to calculate net zero packaging and conduct LCA work. LCA programs are low barrier now. You don't need to have an LCA team. Everyone can use an LCA software. And you can, no matter where you are, wherever you stand in your journey, you can always achieve net zero. And so there's a lot of tools out there to help you do that. But I wanted to give you, at a retail brand level, a sensible approach to conducting a sustainability assessment. This is a retail brand at Lowe's, and I want to show you how I conduct every single thing that someone sends me and they ask me if it's sustainable. I do the same thing every single time. I take the package itself, and I open it up, and I spread everything on the floor, and it can't touch itself. All the materials all spread out, and then I assemble a product while I'm at it. So this is a lamp. And then I start looking at the things, and I weigh all the like materials. And it's not right or wrong or good or bad. It's just knowing where you are. That is step number 1. Understanding the material, the weight of that material, and where it comes from. If you know those 3 things, you can calculate any LCA that you want. And there's things in here where you need to ask questions like, what is this? If you're asking this material, what is this? We have an issue. You can't proceed forward. So you need to know what the material is, step 1. And then you have to ask yourself, is this easily recyclable? Well, some yes, others no. And so we want to address that. Are these directions clear? I think that there's certainly great room for improvement of communicating the recyclability and next steps of this particular product. And then you have to ask yourself through this process, does this educate? I think there's a lot of opportunities here to educate and bring a convincing and compelling story, and even the sustainability story for this particular product, because there's a lot of great things about it, but we're not talking about it. And there's plenty of real estate that you're already paying for to do it. Quad did a great job. I learned about this recently. They created a stand-up display, and it uses across retail and signage in all different ways. And they went through their own audit, and it just eliminated things that didn't necessarily need to be there, and subbed it out with subbing out a plastic material for paper-based, 100% recyclable material, and we're able to save hundreds of thousands of tons of material. So that was a really great opportunity. I want to conclude with this. Really, a pain point here is if you haven't seen this survey, it's DHL. They surveyed a lot of their clients, and one thing that came out of this study was the majority of companies DHL surveyed are willing to invest little or nothing at all into sustainable e-commerce fulfillment. And I reflected on that, and I think it's because a lot of people just are paralyzed in the decisions they have to make and what they have to do. And I think that the folks in this room can help them take a simplistic approach, because everyone has the ability to, whatever you want to do in terms of having a 100% recyclable system, these things are all possible. Having a net zero footprint, 100% possible. There's a lot of low barrier tools that you don't necessarily need to make a significant investment in, but what you need to do is educate yourself and create a team of champions within your organization who can do these things. And I'm here to help you do that. I want to help you do that. And so hopefully the takeaways today is, what can you do today to have a sustainable system, in my opinion, and that would be number one, label all your materials. Just label them, please. We shouldn't have things, I just don't know what it is. And put PCR. Put PCR on there, and to encourage you to increase that number over time. And number two is print very clear end-of-life instructions. There's a lot of certification bodies that are out there that can help you with this, or you can just simply do it yourself. What does someone need to do with it? And then constantly be innovating, and that is increasing your PCR content and striving for 100% recyclable systems in everything that you do. And there's a lot of ways to define that, right? And there's a lot of circularity options out there. So anyway, if you scan this, you can get access to me, ask any question you have, and all the stuff I just talked about is right on this page. Thanks so much.